Good morning. I'm Jay Johnson, Secretary of Homeland Security. I came to Nogales today to inspect CBP operations here. As all of you know, we have had an influx of migration into South Texas, into the Rio Grande Valley sector of the southwest border, consisting of unaccompanied children. And to deal with the flow, to deal with processing all these children, we've had to extend operations here into Arizona. We've made terrific progress over the last number of years in securing the border in Arizona. Apprehensions, which are an indicator of overall attempts at illegal migration, have gone down significantly from about 2000, when they were around 600,000 a year. They're now down to just about over 100,000 or so. We've got a processing center here, and we're having to rely on processing center capability across the Southwest in Texas and here in Arizona. I came here with Governor Brewer to inspect the processing center here in Arizona. There are about 900 children here, and conditions for them in this center are in the hands of CBP along with FEMA and others. I have to say that the kids, while this is not an ideal situation, look as if they're being well taken care of under the circumstances. Governor Brewer and I spoke to a number of them ourselves to hear their stories, to understand why they are here, and the dangers of the journey that they took. And I want to continue to emphasize to all those who are listening, including the parents of kids, parents who may be considering sending their kids from Central America, that this journey is a dangerous one. And at the end of it, there's no free pass. There are no permisos for your children who come to the United States. The journey from Central America into South Texas is over 1,000 miles long. It is hot, it is treacherous, and you're placing your child in the hands of a criminal smuggling organization. It is not safe. When your child comes here, they are given a notice to appear in a deportation proceeding. Under the law, they go to the Department of Health and Human Services, where they act in the best interest of the child, but the child is in removal proceedings. DACA, which is a program that was enacted 2 years ago for children who came into the United States, is a program for children who have been in this country for 7 years, going back to 2007. DACA is not available for a child who crosses the border today, tomorrow, or yesterday. It's for children who've been in this country for 7 years. The immigration reform legislation that is being considered in Congress is for those, the earned path to citizenship in that legislation is for those who have been in this country since 2011. The earned path to citizenship is not available for those who come into this country today, tomorrow, or yesterday. I continue to stress that, and I continue to stress the dangers of sending a child unaccompanied in the hands of a criminal organization along the long journey into South Texas. So we're doing a number of things, as I outlined to Congress yesterday, to deal with this influx and to stem the tide. And I've told my staff that I want to hear all lawful options for dealing with this situation. I believe that with our whole of government approach and in cooperation with the governments of Central America, and we're in discussion with them now about this, and with the government of Mexico, and with the support of Congress, we will stem the tide. I'll take a few questions. Yes, ma'am.
Secretary Johnson, we haven't heard a concrete answer as to when the busing will stop here and when these children will be released. Do you have an answer today?
I'm sorry, what's the question?
We haven't heard a concrete answer as to when the busing will stop, the children coming in, and when these children will be released.
Well, the way this works, when we identify someone as an unaccompanied child on the southwest border, when CBP picks up somebody who's unaccompanied and a child, under the law, CBP, which is part of the Department of Homeland Security, is required to turn that child over to the Department of Health and Human Services, which generally is supposed to occur within 72 hours. HHS then places the child in the best interest of the child. So to deal with the flow and to process these kids, we've had to bring some of them to this processing center in Arizona. Once they come here, they go to Health and Human Services. They are not released to the street in Arizona. They're not released to a bus station in Arizona. They are sent to the Department of Health and Human Services, to one of their many shelters there. We're going to deal with this influx. I believe we will deal with this situation. But until we deal with it, we've got to continue to process these kids in a safe, lawful, and humane manner. And Nogales is part of that solution. Yes, sir.
What is Mexico's responsibility? And what of your discussions with Mexico? How have they gone? What have you done?
Well, we've had discussions with them at the highest levels of government. President Obama spoke to President Peña Nieto the other day. I've spoken to my counterpart. We've had discussions with the Mexican government on numerous levels about our shared security, border security interest. And I believe the Mexicans appreciate the significance of this because they're all passing through their country. Many of them, I imagine, stop when they get to the government of Mexico. So it's in our shared border security interest to deal with this situation coming from Central America. And I believe we will. I also believe it's important that we engage the governments of Guatemala, Honduras, and El Salvador. The Vice President had a very productive meeting down there last week. I'm going to Guatemala on July 8th to talk to that government about securing their border as well, because this is a pipeline that comes from Central America over the Guatemalan border, over the Guatemalan-Mexican border, and up the east coast of Mexico, largely into South Texas. So we're extensively engaged with the Mexican government and the Central American government about stemming this tide. And there are other things that we need to do to stem the tide. We're building more detention space for adults that bring kids into this country and developing a process of expedited removal for the parents who bring their kids into this country. And there are a number of other things that we're considering.
Mr. Secretary, to your left.
Yes, sir, right here.
Are those kids going to be deported back to the country, and how long the process will take?
With respect to who?
The kids. Are they going to be deported back to their own countries, and how long the process will take?
Well, under the law, which has been law since 2008, what CBP is required to do is to turn the children over to the Department of Health and Human Services. If you're apprehended at the border, you are a removal priority because you were apprehended at the border. And so the child is in deportation proceedings. Now, we all know that deportation proceedings for somebody who is not detained takes a while. But these kids are in deportation proceedings once they are placed by Health and Human Services.
Secretary, to your left.
Do you know what percentage?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
sir.
Thank you. Two questions. Has there been any evidence as to allegations that border agents have been abusing children that are in detention centers? And secondly, how do you address concerns from Border Patrol agents that they feel that they're taking agents off the line to take care of this situation, weakening the border?
Well, two things. First of all, I'm aware of the allegations. We take them very seriously, and they are being investigated. I have to say, however, with respect to our Border Patrol personnel, our other CBP personnel, FEMA, the Coast Guard, and the other agencies of government that are being brought to bear on this problem, when you go inside a place like this and you look at what they're doing, I have to say what I've seen is an extraordinarily dedicated, professional, and heroic effort to deal with this situation. The Border Patrol agents and personnel that I've seen working this problem are doing an extraordinary and exemplary job in the circumstances. The first question that I ask when I get to Nogales or McAllen when I meet the commander or the chief is tell me what you are doing to continue to secure the border. And we know we have to surge resources, and we're bringing in resources from all parts of the country. But I want to be sure that we're not taking our eye off the ball when it comes to border security. And if we are, then we'll surge more resources so that that doesn't happen. But our assessment right now is that we're continuing in our border security mission, which is what we need to do in this sector in Arizona while we take care of the kids here. And we're brought in resources from all parts of the country to do that. Yes, ma'am.
You mentioned the kids that were not deported back to Mexico. There's about 52,000 since the fiscal year, they estimate. They estimate that 12,000 are from Mexico, so they're being deported pretty much immediately. The other 40,000 that are given these notices to appear, do you have any estimation on the percentage of kids who actually are appearing in immigration court?
I don't have an estimate for that percentage. Under the law, when we identify somebody from a Central American country, a non-contiguous country, as we refer to it, if it's a child, the child is not, expedited removal for the child is not available because they are an unaccompanied child. Under the law, we are required to turn them over to HHS.
But if they don't show up for their court appearance and they just blend into the United States?
They are in removal proceedings, and there are ways to keep track of them once they're turned over to HHS and once they are placed. But my overall message is that it is not safe to send your child on the over 1,000-mile journey into Mexico, into South Texas, if you're a parent considering doing this. DACA is not available for your child. Comprehensive immigration reform, the earned path to citizenship, is not available for your child. It is a dangerous, dangerous journey. We hear the stories firsthand in there. I got time for one more question. Yes, ma'am.
I have a question in regards to family units that have been giving notices to appear to various ICE offices throughout the nation. We made multiple requests for that information with DHS, and we haven't heard anything back. Do you have the numbers of how many have been given notices to appear in regards to family units, and how many have not showed up?
I don't have the numbers offhand, but we're working with the media to provide access to those numbers, to provide access to the facilities. We're working with Congress to do the same. We want to be transparent about this situation. One last thing I'd like to say before I go, and I've got to go. I'm very pleased that the mayor of Nogales is here, and I'm very pleased that Governor Brewer is here for her to have the opportunity to inspect the conditions here. I've known Governor Brewer now for several months. We met in Washington. I like her very much, and I'm pleased to see her again. And I believe that we are both here in bipartisan spirit to recognize and inspect a situation that we both know has humanitarian proportions to it. And I don't want to speak for the governor. She'll speak for herself. As a governor, as a public servant, as a leader, and a mother, I'm a father. We both recognize that we have to do right by these children, I believe. Thank you all very much. Thank you.
Can you detail how you track those that don't show up to their court appointments? Or they're just going to shelter?
Ladies and gentlemen, just please stand by for a moment for some comments from the governor.
Well, I don't know if it's afternoon, I guess it's morning, so good morning to all of you. Thank you all for being here. Let me begin by saying that I really appreciate the fact that Secretary Johnson came down and visited the facility here, and that we had some time to discuss between ourselves what's taking place between the border, Arizona, Texas, and the humanitarian crisis that we're facing here with all these children from Central America. The bottom line is that the Border Patrol is doing a fantastic job to the best of their capabilities to maintain the children that are here. Certainly it has been reported that they're being held in what they consider are called cells. It's chain link. The kids are on mats, sleeping on top of them on the floor with aluminum covered Mylar blankets. They're clean. They're getting fed. They're getting medical attention. And it's my understanding from the conversation that there's about 140 coming in every day with 140 going out every day. They're processing maybe 10 to 12 young girls that are pregnant daily. And they are assuring that they're getting the right and proper medical attention. I can tell you that as a mother, it breaks your heart to know that they're in the situation that they're in. But more than that, it breaks your heart that parents themselves would put their children in harm's way in the manner of which they have arrived here in. I've been told that there are facilities where they will be discharged to. Some outside of state. We know that the one in Tucson is being up and ready to go to house about 280 children, unsecured, so that they can come and go as they wish. The others will be moved out of state to the same kind of facilities. Now, I will tell you that in my opinion, that this crisis that America is facing with these children, unaccompanied children, is because we have not sent a strong measure or a strong message to these countries that our borders are closed. And we need a federal government to step up and secure the border. It's the problem that we have been facing for years now. And until that happens, unfortunately, we're going to continue to see this kind of situation. I received no answer as far as the unaccompanied children being released to their probably what one would assume is illegal alien parent who is already in the United States, that they're going to show back up to ICE for any kind of reunification with those people. They will just blend in with our community. And I don't know how America can absorb it all. It is truly a terrible situation. And I just call upon the federal government once again to do their job, secure our borders. And in closing, just let me say that it was reported that they're not all from Central America. There have been kids from China and India in the amounts of numbers that have been counted. So with that, I would be glad to answer a couple of questions very quickly.
Good morning.
Could you move the mic down a little bit?
That better?
Yeah.
Okay.
You talked to some of these kids, according to Secretary Johnson.
I did.
Tell us what they're telling you. Is the reason they're here, and a little bit what they expressed to you.
We talked to some children between the ages of probably 15 and 12 in a formal setting. Prior to that, we spoke to them as we were walking by, saying hello to them. But the ones that we sat down with, they were 3 boys and 3 girls from Central America, Guatemala and Ecuador, as if I recall, and that they had came this path to get to the United States by coyotes, and that they had paid about between $5,000 and $7,000 each. That some of them came on the train, and then they walked distances. Some of them have been traveling for 2 weeks to get here, and then turn themselves in. They were told by their parents that if they come and that they do this route, that they would be able to come to the United States and stay. That it was more or less a free ride. Now, it was interesting to me that these kids and their family or their mother or their father would be able to garner the $7,000 in order to pay the coyotes for their travel. But some of them have been charged $7,000. Some of them only have paid $5,000 with the promise that the other money is going to follow. And I don't know what that leads to, knowing the kind of people that, in fact, they're dealing with. So it's a serious situation.
Governor, we were told last week that that money was being paid out to Mexican officials.
Beg your pardon?
We were told last week by a Border Patrol agent that that money was also being paid out to Mexican officials.
I've heard similar rumors. I don't have any validation of that.
So what do you say of that in light of the work that you've been doing with Mexico?
Well, that would be very, very disturbing. We don't want law enforcement of any country breaking the law or encouraging people to break our laws to get into our country.
What questions did you have of the Secretary, and did you get any answers?
I wanted to know from the Secretary how long this was going to continue, how they are being dispersed across the country, how many are going to be retained here in Arizona, and when are we going to get our border secured? Where and how are they trying to reinforce our border? Because now we've got the Border Patrol agents that are normally boots on the ground are in here taking care of kids. They brought in about 140 additional Border Patrol. I indicated at that point in time that I thought it might have been a good idea to maybe have those Border Patrol here earlier in an effort to secure our border rather than have them here to take care of these children in a humanitarian manner. It's very frustrating. It's frustrating for us to go in there and look into those eyes, to see the hurt, to see the trauma that they've been put through. But it's also very hurtful to know that we believe in a country that we love and that we believe in the rule of law. And dang it, the federal government has got a job to do. Unfortunately, in Arizona, I got sued by the federal government to do their job and lost. So once again, here we are faced with a lot of unanswered questions. How long is it going to last? What is it costing us? Are the feds going to continue down this path, pouring millions and millions and millions of dollars into this effort? Or are they going to secure our border and we can move on to deal with the issue that we have in hand? It's very disappointing. We know that we've got between 11 and 13 million undocumented aliens in our country. Now we're bringing in children that are pregnant, children that will be here that will only add to that. So it could go on for months. And we know, according to the RFP, that they solicited requests for transportation to address this issue way back in January, and they were not honest or forthright with us that it just all of a sudden started, because they were looking for a solution in January before they started transporting them to Arizona and then transporting them from here to Nogales and to, not to Nogales, but to Tucson and to Phoenix. So we've got a lot of bubbles to connect.
Governor, they answer how many will stay in Arizona?
One more question, and I can't stand the heat.
That the Southwest Key facility will be open and unsecured and people can leave and come as they please.
That is correct. That's all the information that we have, and that there'll be about 400 employees working there.
Given that the federal government has not given the response...
You're tenacious. I like that.
Thank you. Given that the fact that they haven't given the response that you hoped for in terms of resources, does the state have any responsibility to provide any resources in this situation?
I have been sued, and I have been told that I have no authority or any responsibility in regards to illegal immigration. I think we all know the path that I went down in regards to that. So with that, I just thank you all. We will be keeping everybody possibly that we can posted so that you have as much information as that we have. Secretary Johnson and I have a good working relationship, and I appreciate attention that he's given to me and invited me to be with him here today. And we will continue that relationship, and we will be very forthright in the information that we get so that you have it, so that you can give it to the people of Arizona and to the United States of America. But once again, we need our borders secured. The federal government needs to do it, and they need to do it now. So thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, the mayor of Nogales.
Good afternoon. I'm Mayor Garino of the city of Nogales, and thank you for being here, because this is one of the crisis that is key and is very important, especially for these children. And what we need to do now is some of the conversation we had in the meeting. What we need to do now is get to the root of the problem and actually address this issue through the federal government to Honduras, Salvador, and Guatemala, and also with Mexico. So what we need to do is work hard on this, because this looks like it's going to be a long summer. And there's actually not a date. I was told that possibly September would be the date that they would be using this as a processing center. It might go longer than that. So they're receiving over 1,000, I believe, the past few days daily in Texas. Not all of them are children, but half of them are children, and they end up in a processing center like this. So I just want to say that Border Patrol has been doing a great job, and we're just going to have to continue working on this, and as a community, we're just going to be behind it on this.
Mayor, maybe we can ask you, do you hear anything from Border Patrol about a tuberculosis outbreak in Texas, and are you concerned about that here?
Well, of course we're concerned, but nothing like that was talked about. But yes, there's been issues, and there's been health issues, and that's what you expect when you have 1,000 children in one place.
What sort of health issues?
Well, you can have health issues. I'm saying they have not identified anything like that, but you could expect something like that. Yes.
Mayor, I have a question.
Yes.
Governor Brewer said something about children other than Mexican, possibly from China and from other countries other than Central America. Was she talking about inside the facility?
No.
Do you see that?
No, not here. No, here is Guatemala, Honduras, and Salvador, okay. and all unaccompanied children.
Are we still talking about 1,000 children inside, given that?
It's between 700 and 800, but as they process, others come in, so that number's not even going to fluctuate. It's probably going to stay the same. There's been the capacity. I think it goes up to about 1,100, but I don't think they'll go to that peak because they process pretty fast. Customs and Border Protection, Immigration is working with them now. Their business is to process. Border Patrol's business is to apprehend. So they're doing a better job now here.
We've spoken to this before too. How taxing is this on your community?
It's not. There's no problem. No, there's nothing coming out of our city except for humanitarian issues and the people in Nogales being good. Yes, sir.
Mayor, the governor alluded to that January date that the influx was coming. Were you given any notice at all in January or in early February to expect an influx into your city?
No, not really. I just heard numbers that are coming out of Texas that could exceed 70 up to 90,000. If that's the case, this might go on a little longer than what we expect. But they're getting more efficient as day in, day out here at the processing center. And like I told the secretary, that I'm very happy the way they're doing their work, because this is in Nogales now. This is something that we have to look at.
You mentioned the humanitarian effort of the people of Nogales. We too are being bombarded with calls and emails, people wanting to help. You had told us last week that your help and your donations had been turned away.
No, they weren't turned away. They were not turned away. We just stopped it because we did not want to overwhelm Border Patrol with it. So if there's a need and there's an opportunity, we'll continue doing that. We just asked the people to slow down a little bit on it, because there's a possibility if Red Cross comes in, that's the protocol that will be taken for doing that type of process with volunteer work.
Southern Arizona Red Cross told me just yesterday that they're not involved.
They're not involved? Well, I was told the possibility last week that was a possibility. So let's see what happens, because, like I said, this is going to be a long summer. Yes? They have another processing center in Texas like this, but this is the largest. So they're probably going to be expecting quite a few, in the thousands, probably. Because if there's 140 to 200 a day coming in and going out, we'll expect that, imagine from here to September. So we'll have a lot of them processed here. But then there's a lot of places where they're going to be sent to be able to locate a parent and so they can unite with them. And then after that, they go through the federal courts. Is that it? All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.